title for our second panel today is Physical Economy, Creativity, and Science are the Common Aims of Mankind. And before I introduce our first speaker, I want to put this in a bit of context. Besides the threat of nuclear war that was described in the beginning, we also have a few other problems to deal with, such as the drought in the Midwest, in the West, in Texas and California in particular, the threat of pandemics, right now, most especially the Ebola crisis. And even though it hasn't been in the news as much as it was in October, the Ebola crisis is not solved. And we have to use our resources to deal with that crisis, to knock it out before it becomes a worldwide disaster. And the first two speakers on this panel are going to give us some ideas of some of the technology and ideas that can be used to help deal with that crisis. One thing in terms of the importance of the BRICS in this context, just recently the health ministers of the BRICS nations got together and they came to an agreement that they are going to eradicate tuberculosis in their nations. The BRICS countries represent 43% of the world's population. But when it comes to worldwide tuberculosis cases, they represent 50% of the population. So they have a program they've agreed to work to develop vaccine and make it available to everyone in those countries for free. They're also going to begin cooperation on dealing with the AIDS crisis and the AIDS, HIV rather, and also Ebola. And we know that there's quite a lot that each nation can contribute to that process. India has a pharmaceutical industry that produces a lot of medicines at low cost that can be used around the world. Russia, for historical reasons, has a lot of expertise with very nasty biological materials and can be a leader in developing treatments for Ebola and other diseases. So just to situate this next panel, so the first two presenters are going to deal with some issues in regard to how we can use technology and how we can use cooperation to deal with these crises. First speaker is George Hillman, who is, as it says in the program, an American entrepreneur. I'm going to let him tell you who he is. But basically, we've had a drought of financing of the government paying for taking care of necessary problems. It's not like the age of Apollo when the government invested the money and generated the technology, and for every dollar we spent invested in this, we got $14 back in new technology, new increase in productivity. That's dried up. But we're still here. And part of the reason we're here is because some people did whatever they had to do to make sure that the money got generated by hell or high water to pay for companies to develop medical treatments and infrastructure that are needed to keep people healthy and prosperous. And George is one of those people. So I'm going to just let him tell you what he has to say on this question.
I'm not big on microphones, but that's okay. Oh, you can't hear me?
What?
Does it matter for the recording?
It matters a little for the recording.
recording,
Just
okay.
stick around the general podium,
Okay.
will be fine.
Hi, I'm George Hillman. I'm not a Bostonian by background. I'm actually from New York City, but After I came to Boston from Paris, France in late 1979, I was doing tax work over there for Price Waterhouse, and I just couldn't come back. I couldn't go back to New York after living in Paris. It's just a different world. I've been to about 35 countries doing tax work and other things, and I've been involved in doing startup companies in the biotech field since 1991. One was a Polaroid technology that we took, and we turned that into a purification method, and that's Thermo now owns that company. It was using basically, we discovered back then that when they were using columns, they were only putting one size bead in, and we discovered if we mixed the bead size up, we increased the separation time by a factor of 10 to the fourth. I left there and I worked with, I went over to Tufts Medical School, and something else I mentioned earlier, please, if you see somebody sneeze, make sure they wash their hands, because infectious disease is a huge problem today around the world. There hasn't been any new drugs, except, I shouldn't say that, Cubis came out with one a couple of years ago, but it's going to be a huge problem because the Big Pharma had stopped doing research primarily in infectious disease. And I just caution you on that big time. From there, I did some other companies, and right now I'm working with a water purification company. One of the reasons what caught my attention is that in the BRIC countries, 3 out of 4 have very bad water. You basically have to drink it out of a bottle if you drink it at all. And I'm helping a company up in Vermont. They have come up with using nanotechnology. They've discovered how to purify the water so it's 99.9% pure. And not salt water now, but basically that, and it's, I'm helping them out. And ironically, the other company I'm helping out right now is a drug that was discovered during the space age in Russia. The cosmonauts used to take it when they came back for their exposure to the space, and basically. And it's an antioxidant. It's a monosodium luminol is the actual drug, and one of the things I did help the company out do was I got the right patent attorneys to make sure that they were properly covered. So all in all, that's pretty much what I've done in the past. What caught my attention is was on the BRICS. They are basically where a lot of the research is being done in the world today, and it's as they say, it's 50% of the population of the world as well. And it's very exciting to be working in that area. I can take any questions about what I've done, but basically, one thing I do when I look at a new science and I look at a startup, I try and see if it makes sense logically, because sometimes the science works and doesn't work. And the same with the business development. Who should you go talk to? Depends on who needs it the most and what's going on in the life science field. But the only thing I like to really stress is just make sure you always wash your hands and keep your hands clean, because that's basically where a lot of the germs pass. Or if you see somebody sneeze, back off, please. Especially, I grew up riding the New York City subway, so I see a lot of people sneeze. And just so you know how old I am, Al Roker was like 3 years behind me in high school. We went through we both lived in Queens, New York, and we both went over down to Greenwich Village back then to go to high school. But anyway, it was a totally different world. And I'm available for any questions now or later. And you have a question?
My husband's been, what are you saying?
Go ahead.
What?
Did you have something you wanted to ask?
You have a question?
That I want to ask?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's okay. Oh, by the way, one last thing. I brought some, just so you can see what's going on in the water industry. Back in the back there was some, I brought some just handouts, and as well as what the drug is from Big Pharma as well. It's not approved in the United States, just warning you, but MD Anderson has done 5 years of work, and they've made some outstanding discoveries in the orphan disease area, particularly in Fredericks. So it could be very interesting moving forward. But I'll be happy to answer any questions either now.
Before the Q&A, you should tell them the other work that you've done in an area that affects probably most of the BRICS and most of the poor population of this country. That's how I met you.
We met over at, didn't we meet, we met at BU,
Yeah, HemoQuest.
HemoQuest.
And what were they doing?
They were working on 2 orphan disease areas. It's been a while. It's not diabetes. By the way, diabetes is a huge problem. It is I'm just cautioning you that it could be the biggest problem the world's ever seen from a medical standpoint. It is becoming a bigger and bigger problem. Okay, what are the
We
two?
worked on hemoglobinopathies.
Right, and they were the two
Sickle cell
disease,
disease,
yeah,
and thalassemia.
and thalassemia. Those are the two. And in that case, the two drugs we went all the way to phase 2B, and then they decided that it was not beneficial. That's one area that right now, sickle cell and beta thal, they are definitely looking for drugs. And the problem you have is Big Pharma is kind of closing down some of their research and stuff. Actually, I don't know if everybody knows anybody, but Cubist Pharmaceuticals is very big in antibiotics. And the rumor on the street is that Merck is about to buy them for $7 billion. So 7 or 8 billion, but that's what's going on because Big Pharma's research is not delivering what they should be delivering.
Why is that?
It depends on each specific company. It depends on who's running the research, how often they change over, how quick they can do, they're spending a lot of money on research and yet they're not delivering. And as a matter of fact, in the medical device area in the last year, only 10 companies have received any sort of financing for the new medical devices. I mean, it's just, the investor world right now is kind of in a state of flux. Even though there's at least 5 or 6 venture funds in the Boston area have all closed on between $400 and $500 million. But it's at a state of flux, which is hurting the research that goes on at a lot of the major universities in the area. So I'll be happy to take any questions either now or later. That's up. And the literature is on the table. There's only a certain amount, but if you want, you can. I can give you my business card, and I can send you this electronically later on too.
Do you have any thoughts about Ebola?
We are actually, I have to be careful because we're looking at utilizing a Russian drug in South Africa. But they haven't.
Say that again, you're going to do what?
They're looking to utilize the drug developed in Russia in South Africa to see if it works. So they're in the process of doing that right now. But right now, that is a problem.
Okay. Well, are there any Ebola cases in South Africa?
There's quite a few.
Okay. It's not public.
It's not public.
So, can you say more about how it is that if we have Ebola cases in South Africa and yet nobody knows it? I mean, the public doesn't know it.
Why don't we take this up at the Q&A so we can continue with this again?
Yeah, I can't answer those questions. I can't answer that question because
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure, but I do know that we have sent it over to a specific company in South Africa, and they are looking to see if it works. That's all I can say.
The company that you referred to as a partner being bought out, it sounded like Cuba or something or other.
Cubist is being bought out, yes.
Cubist.
Cubist is a company that was started in Boston about 20 years ago, maybe around there. And they have a broad spectrum antibiotic that they've been marketing, and they're going to be bought out by Merck. It was on the, I found it online today. And Merck, I don't know if you know, but Cambridge, space in Cambridge, especially lab space, is very hard to find right now because all the Big Pharma, because of their research issues, they're moving a lot of this, starting to take space in Cambridge And it's just, I mean, you're paying $70 a foot today in Cambridge for lab space. That's how tight it is.
Thank you.
Hi, it's more of a comment, because I come from India, and about 600,000 children die every year in India because of lack of soap.
So,
Because of diarrhea, which is about 5,000 a day. And this is something that, your field of work and what Modi's doing is something very important right now in pushing forward, because it's not just lack of soap, it's a broader sense, lack of infrastructure, lack of sanitation, lack of doctors, lack of education.
well, what kind of water are they using when they're when they're washing themselves?
There is no clean water, there is no infrastructure,
that's what I thought.
really. So it's not just soap, it's a bigger problem than that, it's an economic problem. But it was a comment just following your presentation.
Okay. It's good to know.
Hi, my name is Karen. I'd like to ask question about diabetes. You say it's taking over. My view on the diabetes, the diabetes is it runs through my family, but each person that took the medication end up with like kidney failure and stuff like that. And for me, I'm like, is it the medication doing more harm opposed to helping? I don't.
Well, that would be a question you should ask your doctor.
Honestly, I asked the question, but they don't know. But from
See,
experience,
there's a limited number of drugs that is available for diabetes. And it all depends on which one would work the best.
and I would say that they're
By the
not-
way, I don't have any science in my background. I did all this biotech. And you're laughing back there, I know. But I just use logic and common sense to see if it makes sense.
And it's not you saying it's out there. A lot of people have it, but it's not being known to a lot of people about diabetes until you reach a certain stage, and then you lose a part of you. So I would just, if you know anything about that, you could show that me. I appreciate it.
It would be, I would tell you it's something that you want to go to a research hospital for you to figure out what you have. In other words, you go to like a BU Medical or the Tufts, because they have professors in there or PhDs or doctors doing research in these specific areas, and they may find something that works better for you than what you're taking from your doctor. That's all I can say. Okay, sorry. Thank you.